Hey everyone, good afternoon. It's a lovely Saturday afternoon here in Mumbai. It's been raining and what a nice cool breeze. So here I welcome you on the ClarITea Chat. Um, it's a very auspicious day of Onam. By the way, that's the reason, my guest opted out of today's session, the one I had planned here to go for a Onam celebration. Not one, actually, two of them had to opt out. And so here I am with you. I'm celebrating Onam with you, and tomorrow there is Raksha Bandhan. So my best wishes to everyone for Onam as well as for Raksha Bandhan tomorrow. Um, so let's move on. This Clarity Chat session is on engaging the business leaders for digital transformation. See, this is most critical because engaging leaders brings the functional ownership. It brings the investments, and as you go about converting your, initiatives from a project towards, business as usual or operations as we call it, you require a lot of process and policy changes for sustained transformation. And these policies and process changes can only be driven by your business leaders because the operations belongs to them. Now, this is also the least understood subject because it's much more of an art than science. And today we are going to devote our time to it. And now, here I want to mention that when we talk about leaders, we are typically talking of leaders at senior levels, but the leaders are at all levels. So these principles or strategies, they apply for leaders at all levels. Now, as I share my experiences with you, please tell me your experiences in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. If you had any breakthrough or aha moments, please share here, and I'll see if we can bring you on air, um, and we can have a discussion. So please share with me your own challenges and successes in managing the engagement with business leaders, and I'll weave your comments and feedback into my session. So let's start. Let's understand what are the challenges. So I think the biggest challenge is addressing the information gaps and making them comfortable with technology. They hear a lot of marketing jargon, but they don't know a lot of brass tacks around how these initiatives are driven and what are the complexities. They understand the potential, but they don't understand the complexities and the risks. We have to generate conviction in them that this can really transform their operations, but that's not sufficient. We also have to generate trust. Uh, we have to prioritize their time and their motivation. They have lots of challenges, so we have to understand what will make them give priority to any digital initiative. Very importantly, we have to address the fear of failure. um, you know Digital transformation initiatives can create spectacular successes, but uh, they typically get hyped, and therefore they can also generate spectacular failures. And I mentioned in my LinkedIn post about today's session that I was talking to one of my CIO friends, which gave me this idea of doing a clarity chat on on leadership engagement. And this is exactly what we discussed, that he was not able to drive things because people were afraid of failures. So we'll cover that. I talked about our leaders being bombarded with marketing messages and all kinds of rainbow at the end of the horizon from a lot of our partners. So they are influenced by it, and it's like, why can't we do it? Why can't we do it? So we have to cut through that jargon and 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 sort of educate them in terms of what the realism around technology initiatives. Well, I don't see any comments as yet, but if you see there are any other challenges, please add them here. So let's start with the first things first. So the big goals. Let's start from the CEO, right? Right from the very top. Now, in one of the ClarITea chats, my friend Manish Gupta said that sometimes the best way to get something going is to really, really think big and present it with a very compelling proposition, so that it catches the attention right up to the top, or it gets bubbled up to the top. And so something like, which will change the industry, or which will completely change our competitive position. So let me give you one story, a couple of stories around it. I think the first one was, of course, my life project, which is CRM. I think the agenda that we set was really, really big, which is completely, um, making our dealers move out of their respective local systems, and setting up a complete system of the company itself, which will be used by everyone. At that time, the word cloud was not there, otherwise our communication would have been easier. But it was actually, setting up a private cloud for all the dealers. Now, this was pretty big, would have required a lot of investments, and therefore, even though we were doing it for a business unit, I think we realized that we need a much larger conviction around the leadership team. So we went about taking it through, the business unit heads, the CFO, and other business leaders, and sharing that entire ambition with them. And the good thing was that we were asked a lot of questions, but all those questions generated, we were well prepared. So whatever we answered generated a good conviction in the leaders. And I think our best and biggest aha moment was when the CFO said that, we should pass on some incentives to people who use this system. Now, a CFO wanting to let go of some money to the ecosystem, that's a big validation. So think big, be prepared to answer questions, and generate that conviction, not just amongst the with the CEO, but with the leadership team. There was another one. This is again a little short one, where um, I came back from one of our largest overseas subsidiaries. I was attending a meeting there on outsourcing, and I actually suggested to them that, listen, we should be doing this together. It's infrastructure outsourcing, and why not we do it together? And but it was a really lopsided proposition. We didn't have the team here. Our infrastructure was primarily outsourced. We had very small team, and they had a very big team, which they wanted to reduce. And they didn't have the confidence that we will be able to do it together. And so I took my boss out for a drink, and he paid for it. So I told him, I said, boss, this is what seems to be a very logical thing to do. We must do it, but we cannot do it. Now, this was something that kind of fired him up, and we started discussing, what do we need to do in order to execute it. And then I was prepared. I gave certain ideas. We again met the next day. We realized that the two of us cannot do it. And then we kind of we kept bubbling it up, and I think it went up to a really high level for that sponsorship. But the thing is that the agenda was really big, really ambitious, and the fact that I mentioned that we must do it, but we cannot do it, really generated, that fire upwards. And people knew that it's going to be difficult, um, but I think the promise was so big in terms of transformation that we got the mandate and the sponsorship. Okay, so Tell me, do you guys agree with it that sometimes we really have to create a big agenda? And I would say that it's especially if you're going to be talking to the CEO, that this is required, because CEOs are the ones who have the mandate and the empowerment to really do something which is industry changing, something which is really path breaking or creates a completely new competitive proposition, and they don't need somebody's approval there. Okay, so tell me if you agree with it. Why not? Next comes planning and strategizing. So you have to be very clear what you want to collaborate on. Now we typically prepare a lot in terms of what our proposition is, what we want to do, and where we need their help. I think we need to look at it from their point of view, the leader's point of view, from the organization's point of view. And that requires taking that bigger view of the leaders division as well as the organization, and how we will have to execute it together. That requires a lot of planning and strategizing. um, as you do that, if you plan and strategize well, you will realize that that's one big way out of the order taker syndrome. So what is order taker syndrome? Most IT teams that I have seen, I would not say most, but many of the IT teams, we are in an order taking mode. We are like waiting for people to tell us what to do. But if you want to really shift from what to do to what do we propose that we do, I think that requires this kind of planning and strategizing. And a lot of what I'm going to tell you from now on is going to be around this planning and strategizing. So the first thing here is in terms of where you want to do this is in empathy. So how can you have a deep discussion with a business leader if you do not know what they are going through? So start with empathy. Um, and here are some tips to connect with the leaders before you reach out to them. Okay. So my first step would be, and this is what I used to do, was to sort of look at what has been their latest presentation, to the leaders manager or to the board, or even a internal departmental review that keeps happening month on month. So for example, what are the KPIs the department is tracking, and how they are trending? What kind of challenges they have? Okay, what are the pressures they have from above in terms of performance, and from below in terms of operations? Um, there's a simple process that I call, which is pains and plans. Okay, it's a P&P process, pains and plan process. What are their bottlenecks? What keeps them awake at night? And what are the things that they really want to do, in terms of leaving a mark on the organization? What are their long-term plans and ambitions? So if you have done all this homework about the leader that you're planning to propose anything to, okay, um, and you weave this in your discussion, you would really come across as a no nonsense, absolutely serious in what you're coming to him for. And you have planned for it, you have been rigorous about it. And please make it obvious that you have done all of this to understand, them, and to really engage with them. So relate your proposals with their pains and plans, and keep connecting it with, whatever you have figured out about them. So, how I used to do it, I had BRMs in every part of the organization, and whenever I would have a meeting with a leader, I would really have a rigorous prep session, and my BRMs knew that I'm going to have it, so they would sort of start preparing for it. Um, I used to visit, plants at least once a year. So my plant BRM would start preparing for it in terms of giving me a complete lowdown of, what's happening, in the plant, and what are the pressures, what was the last review with a visitor, what kind of big problem areas are there, etc., etc. And then I would have a really really enriching discussion with the leaders. um, Now, one of my personal principles is that every relationship has to be an equal relationship, even even with business leaders. And what I have been doing for that is that whenever I meet a business leader, I also make sure that I have something for them. uh, so the question to my team is, hey, what can I talk to the leader uh, that they can support you in executing your work better, right? Or how can they support you better? What is it that their department can do to help you better? And I always weaved it into my narrative with them, because you, if you have been in those discussions, you understand that, once we have talked about it, they would also say, hey, is there something that that you're facing a problem with my department, with my people? Is there something that you or your people want help from me? It's a question that always comes from them, and it's a quality of a good leader to ask that question. And I would always have some action points for them, like for example, if the approvals are not coming on time, if a project we delivered is not delivering value because certain processes are not in place, or people are bypassing them, etc., etc. So, and they would always appreciate that, that we always have some action items or suggestions for them. um, so the next one I want to go from there is another very imperative thing, which is a one-on-one connection with the leaders. Now, this is something I kind of figured it out a little hard. So what was happening is that, whenever we had these meetings, where all the business leaders would be there in terms of a committee, and we are presenting something in IT, and we are asking them, hey, any questions? And everybody is looking at it, and nobody is asking questions. Now you know that there is a lack, that they have not understood, but there's a fear that, how do I say that I have not understood in front of 20 people, and every one of them saying that I've understood? So we realize that, some of the discussions do not happen in a committee meeting. You have to do them one on one. Okay. So how we pivoted from that process was that, when we presented this, the first time we presented this, uh, the possibilities of digital transformation, and we got this kind of a reaction that everybody has understood, but we knew they had not. We started setting up one-on-one meetings, and we again prepared these meetings in terms of how can we make a impact. So we sort of downloaded some videos. We had a small colorful presentation for them, and the whole thing was a conversation that, every time we show them something, then, so what do you think about it? What questions does it arise for you? And this was a one-on-one setting, me and my CTO and, the business leader, and therefore the conversations was absolutely frank, and they told what they understood, they told what they didn't understand. They were very frank with, what kind of marketing jargon has been thrown at them. They told us what kind of confusions they have, and it was a really really engaging and meaningful discussion, and I must say a very educative one. Now, this kind of mechanisms that you have to sense, nobody tells you these, uh, but eventually a one-on-one connection with a leader will always help you. As I said, you have to do your homework well. You have to understand what their pains and plans are. You have to get your people to um, go and analyze what's happening in their lives. And then this kind of a one-on-one connect helps in generating that trust. So tell me your experience at this point. Has it worked for you? Have you seen a difference in when you connect in a committee setup with your leaders versus when you connect in a one-on-one environment? And yeah, just please share some experiences. Okay, I think the next one is the question of motivation. This is like a little bit smaller version of the first point, which was like, motivating your CEO. So, see, in today's world, every business leader wants to be seen and acknowledged as a digital business leader. And that's an opening we can utilize. Of course, we have to address the risks and concerns better. We'll talk about it in a while. Now, I have seen that a nuanced and indirect articulation of heroism is very effective. So, statements like, you know, if the organization is able to do this, then it will be recognized as one of the leaders. And, the people who are leading the initiative will sort of, um, it will be a lifetime achievement for them. Um, my only mm, advice here is don't be direct. Don't say you will become a hero. Okay, we have to be a little nuanced and diplomatic in this. Okay. Now, at the same time, see, uh, we understand that if somebody promises you the moon and says that hey, you know what, I can get you the in $1,000, you will never reach the moon in $1,000. So a very realistic um, a portrayal of what's that big thing that we can achieve must also come with a realistic portrayal of the challenges. Okay, because if there is something big that but if the leader says what are the challenges, what are the big pitfalls that are there, and you say no, we will handle all of this for you, you just be with us and be behind us, and that doesn't cut any ice. Okay, because they understand that anything big, any big transformation comes with its own challenges and their own engagement. So, my way in it has been to be very direct and make them aware of all the challenges that are going to come in their way. And so these challenges really, kind of they are their professional egos. They're like they are big problem solvers and they don't solve small problems. So you have to say that, listen, this big transformation, this big vision requires a big heavy lifting from all of us, and we require you. Only you can do it. So you really have to present the challenge in a manner where they think that yes, only I can do it. Okay, or this will not happen without me. Now that realism is something that will be my big advice. That be realistic with them. Tell them a big challenge. Tell them a challenge that will motivate them to engage with you and to put their might behind you. So like for example, I always told you that I'll weave in case studies and experiences here, so let me do that. um, so we had a big leader who was entrusted with transforming the quality of the organization. And then later on, I mean, at that time, he was leading all the manufacturing plants, and I had a hard time actually getting his appointment. But we were researching, we were working with the teams, and we had very clear idea of what is it that we can get done on the ground, and what is it that we will need the leaders help in doing. And after 6 months I got the appointment, but we were ready with all that planning, strategizing, understanding what challenges are, and we really connected to his pains. And I think the biggest pain was that he wanted a enterprise-wide dashboard, performance dashboard across all the plants. Whether it's productivity or quality or or what do you call inventories. And we directly attacked it, and we said, listen, I mean, these plants have come like one after the other, and everybody has been running their own shop. Nobody has ever looked at them in one way. I mean, in a single uniform set of KPIs or processes. And we had our homework ready that, listen, this is how inventory is calculated in this plant and this plant and this plant. This is how quality is looked at here. This is how productivity is looked at. And there's a big problem for to be solved before we commonize the KPIs and before we can give you a dashboard. And the whole discussion was about business processes. The whole discussion was about what needs to be done at uh, you know at a business level. And we told him it's not going to be easy. um, so he came back to us, what do you propose to do? And we said, listen, we need to get everybody involved. This is not also something which will work with some sort of an executive order or a mandate. You cannot say that, hey, from tomorrow this is how it will be done. So we actually architected a manufacturing IT, sort of, you can call it as a conference, scheduled it for about 3 months later. And we worked with him, his office, and, all the manufacturing leaders around the company. And we had a 2 day sort of conference. And I think this was one of the rare times that somebody from outside kind of came and catalyzed the whole leadership to bring all these people together, and with the sole focus on how to commonize, make processes uniform, and develop common KPIs. And so the CFTs were formed. The areas of challenges in commonization and uniformization got identified, and they were and the CFTs got formed around it. And then we made sure that we run it through a process of governance, and use that opportunity to make a difference. So okay, um, so it's like you have to put them in front, and it's like the heavy lifting can only be done by you. We are here to support you. So it's like you are the Chandragupta, and we are the Chanakyas. We'll give you all the equipment and ammunition, but we want you to lead the battle. Okay. So that kind of leads us to a very associated topic, which is putting the leader in front and center of transformation. I uh, Now I think the biggest thing, if you want the leaders to lead from the front, is two. One is that stop worrying about the credits. Okay, who gets the credit for transformation? Because if transformation happens, everyone associated with it, gets to benefit. Number two is that we must understand that most of the work that will be required in sustaining the transformation, and let me quote unquote, sustaining the transformation, is that once you have done the project and you have handed it over to the business, and then comes the matter of sustenance, that is going to be done by the department itself, because they have to change their SOPs, they have to change many things, including the roles of people, etc., etc. And that's the harder part. So now, how do you at the stage of, let's say, selling ideas, or working the basics of transformation? I think we need to really take that long-term view, that what if we do it and we hand it over to them? How will the business operations change? Okay, and what all will need to change? What all processes will need to change? What all new rules we will have to make? And we have to tell the entire bigger picture to leaders, and that's when they sort of understand that, listen, this is not a technology project. There's a lot that we need to do, and therefore I need to get involved right from the beginning. So some simple things then that we need to put in place is that all communication goes through them. Inaugurations and go lives are done by them, and very importantly, as we govern the initiative, um, they have to chair the governance. Okay, and we will sort of do everything, but they have to chair the governance. So message here is that we orchestrate in the background, but we put the business leaders right up front. So here I have a nice case study, um, and this really generated a lot of goodwill for us. Um, so we were working on the entire uh, analytics transformation in finance, and it was my team, who was going out and engaging with these with various people in finance, whether it is tax or shared services and all. And it required a lot of things to be done, whether it is cleaning up the data, or commonizing the KPIs, clarifying how things get calculated, etc. or even, for example, articulating how the graphs and charts need to be made. um, Now most of this work was being done by us, and we had a few passionate people in finance function who contributed in terms of giving us those decisions, and helping us in sort of conceptualizing all of those. Now then came an opportunity in. So this was the finance meet. So all managers across the company joined for a conference, and we were put on the agenda that analytics in finance. We did a small thoughtful thing, which really worked well, is that on every single initiative that we put along with the chart that we had created for them, we put a thumbnail of the photo of the person who had helped us do this. Okay, and now imagine, here are like 100 people in the conference, and we are presenting about IT initiative, um, analytics breakthroughs we have made, and there is a photo of the business manager who helped us do that. Now that generates the amount of trust you can't imagine, and that motivates all of those 100 people to to engage with us and to help us. Now, something else, again, in a sort of nuanced manner that we did here, was to make our business relationship managers uh, have metrics reporting with the business leaders. For example, the plant BRM. I sort of handed him or her over to the plant head, and I said, "Your person, okay? So this person will do whatever you want him to do. Okay, and of course, if there's something wrong he's being asked for, they will come to me. But 90% of the time he's going to spend with you. Uh, Help him make an impact on your operations." So the moment we did this, these people, they got involved in their, they became part of the leadership team. They started, engaging on a daily basis with the next level of leaders. The number of presentations they were making um, to the forum, they increased, and that really led to a grounds up engagement with all the leaders at the next level, at the next level of the plant head. So now at this point, let me ask you if you have any questions, or you have any experiences that you want to share where something worked for you or didn't work for you. um, so far I haven't seen any comments here, and I'm a little you can say upset with LinkedIn because they keep changing their product in between. And I've been struggling for the last two ClarITea chats. I've been struggling with the streaming, and I don't know whether the lack of comments is that or because people are celebrating or not. But nevertheless, let's move on. I hope when you watch the recording, please treat it as a live session. Ask your questions. I do monitor the comments and I do respond to your comments. So even if you're watching it afterwards, please post your comments or your experiences. Now, now comes the next thing, which is um, having put them in front and center of transformation, having motivated them, and connecting with them. I think one big thing we have not covered so far, which is how do we make sure that they don't look bad. Oh, thank you, Miraj. So I can um, thankfully it's not a LinkedIn problem anymore. I start getting some comments. um, so thanks, Ganesh. Thanks, Ganesh. Thanks for the kind words, and thanks, Miraj. Well, that question about how do you strike a balance while showcasing the challenges realistically so that it conveys the message without conveying undue fear of failure. I think a great question, Miraj. So, see, the fear of failure comes when you give a challenge without a mitigation, or you raise a risk and you say, "But we don't know how to handle it." Okay, so as part of our planning and preparation that I mentioned, we have to also plan that whatever challenges we are going to be posing to them, we must also have some action items on them, that how do we address those challenges. And I think these action items, as I said, you have to give them some big challenge which they really want to handle, they really want to, which sort of motivates them. Okay, yes, this big challenge will be fun. Okay, so we have to tell them, what is it that they will have to do, or what is it that they will have to lead in terms of meeting that challenge. So the fear of failure only comes when we don't have any approaches or any strategies to meet that challenge. So we have to make sure that that we prepare and identify the mitigations as well. But thanks, Ganesh and Miraj. And, and I'm sorry, I thought it was a LinkedIn bug that there was no comments. Okay, so the risks of failure, and I think this was at the center of my discussion with my CIO friend a few weeks back, when everything was going all right, and he was able to motivate people, he was able to sort of present uh, uh, a good picture to them of transformation. And but then people were not ready to commit, they were not ready to commit dollars, they were not ready to commit uh, their sponsorship. And that's when he called me, that Jagdish, I'm doing everything, what am I doing wrong, what am I not doing? And as we kept discussing and kind of clarifying, and sort of checklisting that, okay, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this, I figured out that he was not doing the risk mitigation. So we are presenting big pictures to our leaders, uh, But as I mentioned, that these big ambitious pictures can also lead to big spectacular failures, and which can really demotivate people. End of the day, um, we all have a reward of good work, as well as we are afraid of the consequences of something not going well. And the way our minds work, and that's what I also mentioned in my last clarity chat on change management. The human beings are more tilted towards the fear of failure than the rewards of good work. So we have to be very conscious about um, uh, what those risk perceptions are, what those failure perceptions are, and then we got to try to mitigate them. Like, for example, this was my advice to him. I said, listen, all the big ideas that you have, okay, let's convert them into smaller POCs which fly under the radar. Okay, now don't make them big bang initiatives initially. Try some small POCs, create a success. Okay, in keep your leader involved in that, and once he or she sees that, listen, this is something that works, okay, and then we do a review of the entire POC results and let him ask all the questions that are possible, um, and satisfy himself or herself. And that's when you say that, okay, hey, are we ready to announce this big, and I think that's when your likelihood of generating that sponsorship becomes bigger. So nobody wants to take a big risk. People are ready to commit to small invisible failures, but keep them invisible till you find small successes, and only after um, and only afterwards, convert them into big plans. So so we have to generate that confidence and conviction. So sometimes it comes out of your track record of transformation, but sometimes if you're like still um, uh, trying to generate that conviction, you haven't had big successes behind you, always better to start with the small successes. So so use POCs and experiments as a way to generate trust. So now coming back again, we have Mahesh. Hey, thanks, Mahesh. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being there. How to help business organizations understand the complexities of IT? That's $1 million question, because all the marketing that I talk about, our partners are doing, and they are showing all kinds of subjabag, or those rainbows to our business leaders. Um, they really think that what, uh, this is something which is easy, okay, and that makes your job difficult because they get impatient. I mean, so and so has done it, so and so has done it, so and so has done it. Why can't we do it easily? So I think that's where we have to really, as I said, we have to do that homework. We have to uh, go and find out, all the people who did that, what kind of challenges they faced. I'm sure everyone faces a challenge in transformation. It's just that the stories that come out are the stories of successes, and they're not the stories of challenges. So we got to figure out what are those stories of challenges. uh, I think our leaders understand something when you really portray a clearer picture to them. So I have done this. For example, let me take an example of the previous one. So we were, so our sales leader wanted this mobility solution for the organization, and we wanted to do it, but we just looked around somewhere else in the industry, and we figured out that one of our competitors had tried to do it, and they had failed because they had not planned for devices. Okay, so imagine 5,000 to 10,000 of your dealer people having these tablets, which they will be using for selling, and you don't have a device lifecycle management plan or a strategy. You don't have a strategy for thefts. for breakages, for replacing them every 2 3 years, and that's where the plan goes kaput. So we brought those challenges stories to them, and then we sort of further ruggedized the entire plan. And you know what? Once you tell them, they listen. It's not that they're not unreasonable people. Let me put it this way. So once we have the complexities of IT, we know the complexities of IT. We have to convert them into, we have to do the translator between French and English, and we need to portray to them in realistic terms with examples, with peer case studies. And I think that's the best way to go. So here comes another question from Ganesh. How does one run IT department with limited resources, budget, manpower, etc., and running legacy systems with no external support? Um, so this is a very very common issue, Ganesh. I agree with you. I was laden with it when I became the CIO for the first time. Very limited resources. I had just 7 people, and I was shown a budget where I didn't have a control on 60% of that budget. So the first thing I told my boss is to like take that budget out of my head, and then bring some realism here. So I think the best way to address this is to take a long term view of the business. IT exists for helping business. So, and each business, there is no business which does not have a growth strategy. Um, and the minimum number that you will see is like a 15% year on year growth, right? Or a 20% year on year growth. Everybody wants to create new business lines. Everybody is wanting to launch new products. Everybody wants to go into new markets. Everybody wants to go and set up new plants. Now, all those plans are out there in the organization. Okay. Now, what we need to do is, instead of having those plans come to us and then we kind of figure out where to go for resources, we have to sort of seek out these plans, engage with the business, engage with the leaders, get those plans to us, and then take a view of it, that whatever I am having today, will it be able to address what the organization requires tomorrow. So I've got a simple template which I can cover in one of the clarity chats, how you do a long term strategy. We can actually do function by function, which is like look at a particular parameter of your business. Okay, let's say for example customer connect. Okay, and what is it today? We are not reaching out to customers today. What do we want it to be after 3 years? We want to set up a contact center with, let's say, handling 500,000 calls a year. How will that come? You will have to create a new capability for it, right? So we do a systematic mapping of what the organization requires in the future, and what capability will need to be built for that from a business point of view, what will be the IT contribution to it, and then sort of take all of that into an Excel, and then create a IT roadmap. And that is what gets you the investments. That's what generates that confidence in you as an IT leader or as a CIO, that you are focused on business, that you will be able to make an impact if I give you the money. Now, here is a something I covered in another clarity chat as well, that there are areas in business which are getting like 10 times, 20 times, 30 times more budgets from you, and they are cost areas. They are not creating value. Well, I gave an example that time was, for example, warranty. Okay. A warranty had a budget which was like 20 times that of IT. And I questioned, I said, why can't you give me some more money? I know I'll reduce your warranty by 10%. And this whole transformation will pay for the entire IT budget itself. So, making those comparisons also helps. I hope that clarifies, Ganesh, to connect to the business, take a strategic long-term point of view, and look at IT as somebody who can impact those areas of big cost, which are bigger than IT sometimes. Okay, so let's move on. Um, yeah, the last and the most important question: politics. It's everywhere. not just in the public domain, but in organizations. And and IT typically becomes a victim of it. Okay, so we cannot avoid or neglect politics. It's very important, but let's understand the nature of IT. I think IT is one function which has to deliver to every single function. Okay, and which is also, sort of a neural network of the company, because we are processing all the data and information, we are looking at efficiencies of all the processes and all of that. So if we have to work with all the functions, we cannot be political in terms of taking sides. It's very easy to think about, okay, you know what, the CEO is the most powerful person, so let me side with him, and and sort of be part of the political machinations of operations, against finance or HR or whatever, right? Or CFO is the most powerful person, the number two, and like I kind of work and I participate in that politics. So never take any sides. Never. There will be pressures, but I think you need to withstand those pressures, because you want to create a long-term trust and credibility. So we have to be the neutral moderator who balances the different needs. Okay, and if you're not doing it, you will be hurting your own credibility and trust. So um, people have to get a message that you being the custodian of technology are not going to use technology to help somebody politically against them, either by providing information or by designing the process in that way. So here that mindset is very important, that we are the custodians of systems and information, and we can't let people play with it, play political games with it. Okay, this is very, very important. It takes a little bit of a backbone to take that stand. But let me tell you, once you take that stand, people will, you will generate a lot of trust. Um, so let me give you an example here, right? Um, so this boy, little boy, he goes to a pharmacist shop and puts a coin in the phone, and calls up somebody saying that, hey, I want your, I'm looking for your gardener's job, and the lady says, I have a gardener, and I'm happy with him. He said, no, I'll work for you at half the price. He said, no, I don't want somebody at half the price. I'll do this. I'll do this. This guy tries everything, okay, uh, and the lady is not budging, okay, and then the pharmacist says that, hey, you know what, you can cut my garden. He says, no, I just doing a customer check. I mean, how much the customer trusts me, okay. So it's like, if you say no to somebody, the person, you generate trust by letting that person know that when somebody is, when he is not there and somebody is looking for that kind of political help against him, you will be saying no. I think that's a very important message. But then why are we discussing politics here? Okay, so we can leverage the politics positively. Okay, because every leader has some or the other political pressures. Okay, so and it's not difficult to identify what kind of political pressures the leaders are going through. Okay, and when we have these, one-on-one connects with them, or when we are engaging with them, I think we can weave in these political pressures to them, and that's something, which I would say is a low-hanging fruit. So if they are undergoing if they are under a political pressure, where you think you can help, and there is some way, that helps you get a deeper connect or helps you get a sponsorship for your initiatives, uh, that's how you use the organization politics positively. Okay. um, so you know I have many stories which I would prefer not to tell here, but I can tell you maybe one of them. So this was about quality, and it always used to be a big political issue, and that's where I think we reached out to our quality folks, and we said, you know what, I think we can help here, give us a chance. And we ended up doing um, many projects to fail safe the quality processes, to create the gates which people cannot cross. And we did it in a way which was acceptable to people, because we influence people to say that, listen, don't do it alone, let's make it a team game, let's involve production and quality and and logistics and everyone together. So we set up a governance in place. It was a agenda for quality because of the pressures they were facing, but we brought in our skin in terms of developing that governance. And we ended up making a lot of intervention. Now, making it a team game became really helpful, because what happened after a while was that we had to go to the suppliers for certain policy related matters. Like, for example, all the big numbered aggregates that we had, we said that they need to be barcoded. Now this barcoding has to be done at a supplier's end, so you cannot do it alone. Quality cannot do it alone, so this has to be done through the supply chain people, and they were part of the team, and that's how we sort of got it done. So that brings me to the end. So politics, don't play it, but leverage it positively. Political pressures are sort of easy entry point into a leader's mind share. Help them alleviate their political pressures, find them some technology ways, and then you have their ears, and then you have their trust. Okay. So, Vijay, you can ask your questions here. We still have like a few minutes here. Okay. So, Ganesh, for my template, uh, I think if you just drop me an email or a WhatsApp, I can share with you how this. I mean, it's a very simple template that I can share with you. Um, Krishna Raj. Okay, that's a big one. So I just need to lower my camera to make myself visible. Okay. What is the right blend of leaders and soldiers in a conducive environment? Every individual is a leader in his or her own right. However, what I'm referring here is we also need soldiers who are the core team in executing the actionables and deliverables. In my journey, I have come across the 80% leaders and 20% executioners, and the management continues to have on strategic level. What's your thought? Oh yeah, I have some serious thoughts on that, Krishnaraj. In the organizations where you find 80% leaders and 20% executioners, that is not sustainable. And if you dig a little deeper, what's probably happening is that those 160% of the people are either coming from contractors, or they are coming from outsourcers. And you know um, there are multiple views about it, but my view about it is that you look at your critical to customer operations, your critical to customer processes, and make sure that you have control of it by having your own leaders on that. You may still outsource it, but you must make sure that you have control on those. Now there are areas where I have innovated, I have held this view. Like, for example, um, I set up the call center for my organization. That call center grew up to be fairly big, actually, about 1,500 people. And when I went into it, my personal conviction was that, you know what, I mean, these should be our own people, because handling customers is absolutely important and critical, and we must have our people, and we must not outsource them like everybody else does. Okay. So I sort of took that thought to a lot of my leaders in sales and marketing, and then kind of figured out that, what, we need not insist on like people being ours, but I think we have to make sure that the people are ours, from a thought process, from an engagement point of view. And so what we did was we got a partner, and we created a operating model, where we took our products to them. We had those demo days, where these people can look at our products, and they can correlate what the customers are talking to them with in front of their own eyes. Okay, and we would our people will have open houses with them. We would have education sessions, product education sessions with them, which has got nothing to do with the customer issues. So we treated them like our own employees, even though they were from outside. So I know, Krishna, I don't know how much of it answers your question, but we can't take a we can't take a high level view of it. You have to go down and see what works for the organization, and what's broken, what's not broken, and fix only those things which are broken. So if somebody is able to work with only managers, and like, let's say, have everyone else outsourced, but it's working for them, and they're able to engage with these people as their own people, why not? Okay. So Vijay, yeah, you have a questions but long, so please do put them on LinkedIn, and what I will do is, I will respond to them. I'll mention you on those questions, um, so that you get a notification. Okay. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your comments and engagement, and thanks for allaying my worries and fears that the whole integration between LinkedIn and the streaming tool isn't working. Now, before I leave, I would say that I used to do a small presentation on what's the idea of Clarity Chat, um, and I decided to put it at the end for only those people who haven't watched Clarity Chat before. So, I will say bye to you. I'll go off air, but if you're curious about what this Clarity Chat is all about, please watch the video which is coming. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for connecting. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for the engagement, and thanks for being here on a festival day. And once again, wish you happy Onam, and wish you happy Raksha Bandhan tomorrow. Bye bye. See you. See you next week.